G'day everyone, and on today's episode I'm going to show you how I got running water out of the back of my 90 series Prado. So what I'm used to using is I'm used to using one of these bad boys. Now while these things are great, they're cheap, they're effective, they work, the problem is they pretty frequently leak out of either the tap bung or the lid. Now this is the same in case of this one here. Basically just it will not hold water. You have to store it up vertically this way, and while that still functions, it's not particularly, it's impractical to store it just vertically. So yeah, the improvement of having a hose built into the car that just disperses water whenever you need it is hugely better than, it's a massive improvement upon it, so that's what we're going to be doing today. Alright, so I'm working on my footwell water tank setup here. I'm just doing this here to test it for leaks at the moment. Got some food grade tubing and some brass bungs in here with a little hose clamp. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for drips here, because it didn't come with thread tape and it dripped before then. So I put thread tape on it, now plumber's tape, whatever you want to call it. And now I'm just looking for that. I'm worried I haven't done this up tight enough, but I don't trust shifters, so I don't want to unthread that, if that makes sense. So I'm just waiting for that to see if that drips. The idea with that is, come over here, I've got my main, like my baseboard here. That tubing there will run into this caravan pump in here and then flood out the other side. That caravan pump is on demand, so the tap I have in here, which all this stuff's going to be mounted in the midsection here, will make it so that it's on demand water. What I did was to mount the actual footwell water tank down. I've got some stuff here that I'm sort of working with to get this together. This is just some brackets from Bunnings and a bit of MDF I had lying around. Mounted over there. That one's done with zip ties, but I've got bolts. I'll just have to bolt it in, that's all. But yeah, I've got flat boards here, and then the idea is I strap the tank with these 100 kilo little hand straps to the boards, so that it doesn't go, let's say there's an accident and it doesn't just go ka-choom, or if I flip it doesn't just tip over and hurt someone very badly. But then that large board here will mount to the factory seat holes in a big square spot with the pump attached to it there and some tie down straps so I can tie things down just here. That'll get fed through a tube past that section over there into this tap, and then theoretically with an on-demand tap I should be able to just, when it's switched off, on, the pump will kick in and then it'll pump water, off, it'll reach a pressure and then cut off. So hopefully that's still going to work out. But yeah, I'll keep you updated as the project goes on. I'm going to work on to doing a bit of like a wiring harness for the pump to plug into my battery box here. So after a leak test, we found that this side over here was leaking. I didn't have it done up tight enough, so I grabbed my shifter. It was 23 mils, and I didn't want to go out and buy a 23 mil spanner just to do this, so I got a shifter onto it. I wasn't super tight about it, but the thread tape seems to be working. I make sure to nip up both sides, so that's cool. I've got my T-piece here with all these hose fittings onto here. That'll have another hose fitting on there as well. A hose clamp on there, sorry. And that'll plumb into the actual pump. I've got to cut a bit off the wood to make room for this lid, because sometimes this lid gets stuck from actually working. But then yeah, we'll put this back into the machine, into the car, ratchet it down, plumb it up, and in a minute we'll make a cable for the pump to function from. Mint. Alright, this is probably the most redneck thing I'll do in my entire life, but what we're going to do is we're going to do some flood soldering using that, weighted by that. Going to flood it with some solder. Here's a fuse for our machine. I've got some electrical cable. This is rated for 15 amp, which is well and truly enough for this pump. That pump is rated at 3 amp, I think it is. It's tiny. So I'm going to put a 10 amp fuse in this fuse thing here. And that's all going to be plugged in with an Anderson plug. So I'll get all of that set up, and then I might time lapse me putting it together, possibly. Alright, so the game plan for setting this up realistically is this cable here, the wedged with this stuff here, will end up going to the pump. This cable here runs negative into that side of the negative, and then this red one here runs positive into a fuse into that side of the positive. Now theoretically, due to the design of this pump, I shouldn't need a switch anywhere, but if I was going to have one, I'd probably have it in here with the positive. I would have all of that together, then I'll flood solder these terminals on to plug into this plug here, using this setup arrangement here, and then that would plug directly into my battery box. Then we'll attach maybe we'll put some little bit of conduit around here or some heat shrink or something to tidy it all up, make it all look a little bit more professional. But yeah, basically red of your 15 amp cable to this one here, black to your negative, which is negative to your Anderson plug. Little fuse in here. I'll put a 10 amp fuse into that one there. It's currently got nothing in it now, but yeah. I'm going to give a go at flood soldering. I've not done this in a while, and hopefully it all works out well. But yeah, then after that we're going to heat shrink it up with a little bit of heat and just, do that instead. Cool. Let's see how it goes. I've just had to relocate because it started raining where I was working. What I've done is I've just flooded that into there, heating it up with my hot devil. Throw it into that. And yeah, these are now terminaled. So basically it goes from here where it'll attach onto the pump, about 1.5 meters long cable, crimped and shrinked that there. I'll probably whack a zip tie around there, but then I'll probably whack some heat shrink around this piece here, so that I can get heat shrink on the end of that and heat shrink on the end of that. That'll put them a bit more better insulated than they currently are. And then I'll be able to add those 2 prongs into the Anderson plug, and that'll be all sweet. I'll then probably wrap it in electrical tape all the way around there and a little bit around there, maybe a little bit around there, just so it is all hunky-dory. I'll whack a fuse in it, then I'll plug it in and see if it works. Alright, so I've got my pump here. It runs on, what is that, like 3.5 amp, 12 volts. That's cool. It takes fuck all power to do that. Got it attached there into the cable, down. That's where I attach this little bit of wiring stuff to here. I will be wrapping that up. I've got a zip tie there, but I'm about to put an Anderson plug onto that. So then we're going to plug it in and see if it turns on. Okay, so I've just done a test pump plug on this. I plugged that into an Anderson plug, and yes, that started up, worked. I've got in here, I've got a 7.5 amp fuse, which is well and truly enough for this. This is 15 amp wire, this is probably 30 amp wire, this is a 50 amp plug. Everything is all fused and all should be sweet. I do have to clean this up still just a little bit. I'll just probably wrap some tape around it, do that. Probably what I've done to that there. But all in all, that'll be that there. This has a long enough cable to be able to plug into 2 different places in the system. This will be basically find a permanent plug, like a permanent plug home somewhere in the system there. So I'll have it plugged into that, do all that stuff. All right, let's put it all back together and plumb it all up and see how it goes. So yeah, I've come back to this a little bit later on, and look, it's a dry spot just there. It is about to rain, but there's a dry spot just there, and over on the other side, it's the same as well. There's no obvious wet marks around the base of the actual tub, so the actual footwell tank. So now to drain it so I can put it back in the car. We'll plumb it all back together and then we'll fill it up. Okay, so we're just on the passenger side now, and I've got this strapped down with the straps on the floor here, so that's all set up. That shouldn't go basically anywhere. This is freely accessible here, so that's good. That's all done up. Now I've just got to whack a hose clamp on here to hose clamp it to there, and then get my second tube to go to that. This is bolted down with the 4 seat bolts there, with a couple of these bits here, and that's all attached to there. I'm concerned that maybe these might scratch the tubs and stuff, but if I just make sure I buy something that fits between this bolt here and this bolt here, which is like, I don't know, good 60 centimeters, that should be sweet. This cable here obviously is the big ugly one for the dual battery system, from the cranking battery to the actual battery itself. So that's that. I will be making a channel along behind here for these. And this is obviously the cable we have now for our water pump, which has an Anderson plug and fuse just here. So that'll run along this way past this drawing here, probably along with this cable here, and then plug in directly into that. Again, 7.5 amp fuse, that's a 50 amp fuse, it's all fused, it's all sweet. I'm just going to go hose clamp and whack that onto there essentially. Now, theoretically, I've set this up correctly so that I can just plug that onto there, and then that's how it's going to go. I won't set it up now because of that. But yeah, I'll bung that onto there, do another check to see if that opens up correctly. And then yeah, we've done that. Let's put it all together. Alright, so it took me a bit to fill it up. I might have spilled a bit of water here, but it all works. So I've got a cable that I'll manage in a moment. That's all sweet, that's all good, that'll plug in a minute. Got it all strapped down. That's a towel to dry some stuff up that I spilled. But when I look at this, if I walk over here, all I need to do now is, when I want water, bring that out. Move this so it's got a little bit less tension. I might replace this hose and maybe get a longer one or something, but I'll replace that. Yeah, so I've put a hose clamp on this bit here. So now ready, you just listen. Water. But when this is working, you absolutely have to have the pump, the lid off the tank, because there's no ventilation to the tank, so it just vacuums the tank until the lid flap is ready. If I do this and seal it, you start to watch the lid of the tank sort of dip. So you can start to see it going there as well. So yeah, it's you have to take that, see it flex back out again. I don't know how well the camera picked that up, but yeah, long story short is you have to have the lid off when you're using this setup. So I'll just go quickly turn that off now. Back down under here and turn it off. See, when you turn it off, the pump automatically disconnects itself because it has a vacuum. Sorry, it has a water pressure release like switch off valve. So once this pressure builds up to 40 psi, this will turn off automatically. It does that little bit of noise for, like, you know, continuing checking, but it goes for that. That is done. So when the outlet side here has over 40 psi of pressure, it'll automatically turn itself off. So yeah, it's not that hard to sort of set up. You know, if you just leave yourself this bit of room here to be able to use this, all you need to do to use it is just take the lid off, or even just crack the lid. Really, don't even have to take it off. Just sort of crack it. You can sit there like that, but probably take it off a bit easier. And yeah, what you can do then is you've then got active water. I know it's a rough looking job and it's not exactly the neatest, but all in all, it's pretty effective. It channels nicely down past all this stuff down into here for that. One day when I have a bit more carpentry experience, I might fab something up to be able to mount this to a place so I can just have a tap sort of somewhere and just have it so I can just turn it on and have access to it. So this is also threaded here, so if I wanted to, I could thread a hose fitting to it and then adapt it to like a normal hose. So that's cool as well. But yeah, all in all, I think that's a valuable addition to the car. That'll make our next major trip much more comfortable. Sun blind my eyes. So there you have it. With a little bit of carpentry, a little bit of electrical, you can have a solution to water storage in the back of your four-wheel drive. Now, what I've done here, you can probably do to just about any four-wheel drive, really. You just need a little bit of creativity to figure out exactly where you want to mount your pump and how you want to mount it. But yeah, no, all in all, really cool mod. I like it a lot. Just water, got it, you know. So I really like the fact that that turns off by itself. That's so good. Anyway, we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks again for tuning in to Knowlesy's Outdoors. If you like this video, feel free to like, comment and subscribe. Cheers.